The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
With no start date, his three-step plan outlines an effort to gradually restart the economy, beginning in areas least affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
We took the greatest economy in the history of the world and we closed it in order to win this war, and we're in the process of winning it now. We are not opening all at once, but one careful step at a time.
In phase one, a soft reopening of parts of the United States. For example, while the vulnerable still shelter in place, working from home will still be encouraged, but some Americans can slowly begin to go back to their offices. And businesses like restaurants and gyms could open using strict safety measures, but no large gatherings. Phase two will relax some social distancing efforts, like opening schools and allowing elective surgeries and non-essential travel again. For phase three, normal life resumes as much as possible. No staffing restrictions at work, and big sporting and entertainment venues will be back in business again with limited restrictions. Those most vulnerable asked to still practice social distancing while they're in public spaces.
Not every state, not every region is going to do it at the same time. Sooner or later, we will get to the point, hopefully sooner, with safety as the most important thing, to a point where we can get back to some form of normality.
But before states begin the path toward lifting restrictions, the guidelines suggest they have a decrease of coronavirus cases across a 2-week period, a return of pre-crisis hospital conditions, and an adequate supply of personal protective equipment for healthcare workers, and have the ability to set up safe and efficient screening sites.
The criteria that the federal government has recommended are fairly strict, and that's to give states really the time to really set up exactly how they're going to contact trace with the CDC in the background as supporting.
While unveiling the plans in a phone call with governors, a source familiar with the conversation said the president told them, "You are going to call your own shots."
Oh! You're on your own, everybody. You're on your own. We have the most pathetic leader in the history of leaders. Unfreaking believable. All right. So what Trump did yesterday was he created the appearance that he's doing something while doing nothing. That is just so Trump. He's the laziest. This is why he calls people sleepy and lazy, because he's sleepy and lazy. This man does not want to work. He doesn't want to use the Defense Production Act to get testing done, to raise the number of tests that are available, to get the reagents, to get... America is literally out of Q-tips, and every time I hear that, every time I hear people say, we just don't have swabs. I'm like, here, take my Q-tip, go in my face, in my nose, just test me, please, for God's sake, for the love of Pete, heavens to Murgatroyd, my goodness gracious, test me, please. So he's saying, okay, we'll have a staggered opening with no timeline at all, and not mentioning any states where data is guiding the staggered opening. I'll tell you, you're going to have more staggering than opening is what you're going to have. You're going to, we're going to stagger back to normal. You'll have a lot more staggering than normal. I don't know where normal is. The Midwest is just now starting to erupt. The Governor Whitmer is like, please stop going out in large groups protesting because, quite frankly, that is the reason why you have to stay at home. You're making it worse. They did it in Minnesota today, too. Look at this. This is so unbelievable. I mean, you got these large crowds on the streets in Minnesota outside of Governor... I can't believe your governor. I never knew this, that your governor's name, I had to look it up today, was Tim Walz. Mr. Waltz is your governor? Waltz? Cartoon. Anybody? Godfather? Anybody? Yeah, it was Herman Waltz. Waltz pictures. That's who woke up with the horse head. Which is what we're going to be eating because all the beef plants are closing down. We're going to have to eat horse head. But Mr. Waltz is your governor, and he's like, please just stay the freak home. They're outside of Mr. Waltz's house. outside of his house. What, does Johnny Fontaine need to roll in a movie? Why are they there? No masks, no nothing. Look at this. This is the nice state. So as you look at this, you'll notice there are no Confederate flags. All right. Yay, Minnesota. But look at these people. There's no masks. There's no nothing. There's just people standing around shoulder to shoulder protesting a pandemic. How do you do that? Could we talk about sacrifice? Could we please? Because this is like the opposite of Rosie the Riveter, okay? Remember her? Tough girl, tough broad, good-looking woman, muscles, tough, badass. Remember her? We can do it. We can do it. Isn't how I imagine her to sound. You know, you could put any voice in her head that you'd like. But, I mean, honestly, people in Maryland won't wear a mask. And there was a guy, this is in the newspaper today, Petula Dvorak, wrote a column about what she said. And she said she was in rural Maryland and that there was an order given to begin wearing a face covering in stores and on public transportation. And these the people that won't do it. You're probably the people that go, Cuomo sucks. He left the trains open. Okay, I mean, it's a question like, why did he do it? I'm from New York. I understand that, people need the trains. It's the only way to get from here to there. Although I think they could have run buses. Just saying, with a little ventilation, windows open. Just saying. Okay, but that said, these are the people that won't wear face masks. So you had a man who was, owning a store owner, rural farm and feed store, and Petula, who wrote this column, goes and buys her pet's food there. So she went to the feed store, and there was a man standing outside who said, "Sir, you can't enter the store without a mask." It was a worker who was stationed outside of the entrance to the store. And an old man, this is what, an old man, he juts out his chin, and he puts his shoulders back, and he says, "This is America. This is America. You can't tell me what I gotta wear." Now, I don't know why I gave a guy from Maryland a southern accent. My aunt and my uncle lived in Silver Spring for a really long time. They had no southern accent, just saying. But yes, this is America, and America is asking you to sacrifice for the greater good. This is why we have so many movies and documentaries and PBS special about the greatest generation. I mean, Tom Brokaw celebrated the greatest. This is why we literally long for this nostalgic greatest generation that we did not get to be part of, and maybe we wished we could. Well, now you can. Now you can. Michigan, they're waving Confederate flags up north. I don't even get that. What is the connection except for the white supremacist part? Oh. I guess I just answered my own rhetorical question, is what I did there. But, they're screaming, "Lock her up" to Gretchen Whitmer, who is, fabulous. I mean, she's just superwoman. Standing there trying to protect Michiganders from their own damn selves, trying to talk reason into, and they're screaming, "Lock her up, lock her up." Don't you get sacrificing is American right now? Don't you understand that this is a time for sacrifice? And that if you are, unemployed, you're supposed to be getting your state's unemployment plus $600 on top of it. And then there's also another plan, another program, PUA, that didn't even go into effect yet. That's another $600. Be pissed off at, your state's labor department for running COBOL programs, which I believe I still know. I don't know the new ones. I don't know any of the new ones. But I mean, every one of us is being called upon now. Every single one of us, and every single one of you can be like an uber American, and that does not mean buying lawn signs with stars and stripes on it, or wearing "Make America," fat again. I don't. What is it? What is that? I don't. That's not it.
Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Oh, everybody, here's the goober of Florida. The child abuser, the one that dresses a newborn in a Make America Great Again onesie. If you're so nostalgic for the great America that you imagine, occurred and existed before you were born, why don't you do what the greatest generation did and sacrifice for America? I don't even understand it. But here he is being asked about the unemployment problem, the number of people who have called 900, 800 times, who have heard a sound that they haven't heard since the 90s. A busy signal over and over and over again. And so he was asked about it, and here is his reply.
We've got a lot of hands on deck for this at this point, and that will, I think, really help us a lot. I got to go run and get on a couple calls, but we have these folks are going to be here if you guys have additional questions.
He's got to go. The agency heads. Yeah, oh, bye. What about the claims? Bye, the claims. Hey. Dan, door shut.
There you go. We're in great hands with Ron DeSantis, everybody, who, by the way, is opening up the beach in Jacksonville today. Yeah, he's done with it. He's literally done with it. We don't have testing, but he's done with it. So good luck to us in Florida, which is shaped that way for a reason. Right? That's what we get for leadership. Unbelievable. And people are literally sitting on hold for hours and hours and calling and calling. And now they're being told, paper it, go get an application and write it out, even though that will take twice as long to process, right? And it's all because our systems are 40 years old and nobody bothered to, keep up with the times. So if you made America great again, wouldn't that include like IT from that era too? So shut up about it, because you got exactly what you were promised. You got to return to 40, 50 years ago is what you got. I mean, this is unbelievable. So America wants to be open. And so that's pretty much the plan. And you got, listen, don't blame Oprah, okay? I saw that. And I read this article in Slate magazine. Stop it. Oprah has nothing to do with the fact that Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil was spawned by her endorsement, and all these many years later have turned into greedy, self-centered, illogical ranters. I mean, I can't explain why they're engaging America into, I don't know, not protecting itself, not defending itself, but instead exposing themselves to a contagion. I don't know. They're supposed to be doctors, but it's a little creepy. Here's Dr. Oz saying that we should open schools, because if we open schools, we would only lose about 2 to 3% of, humans is what we would lose.
Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation, where we think we might be able to open without getting into a lot of trouble. I tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity.
Appetizing.
I just saw a nice piece in The Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. And, that's any life is a life lost. But to get every child back into a school where they're safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives with a theoretical risk in the backside, it might be a trade-off some folks would consider.
Okay, wait. I thought that Fox News and those Republicans were pro-life. B, I thought they were all about homeschooling. I thought that's what their wettest dream was, to have homeschooling be the norm. And now he's sitting there saying that it's an appetizing opportunity to trade 2 to 3% dead people for opening up the schools. And appetizing, I told you they're maggots. I told you they want to eat your brain. Only a maggot feeds off of corpses. How in the hell do we even put people on the TV that say crap like that? Now, if you're somebody who lost a loved one, please be comforted by the thought that your loved one's death may have allowed for the NFL to kick off in time. Right? I mean, isn't that what we're being told here by these people? The only good thing you can say about what Dr. Oz says there is that he makes about as much sense as Dr. Phil does. Dr. Phil said, listen, everybody dies. Everybody dies. You got to go to work.
250 people a year die from poverty. And the poverty line is getting such that more and more people are going to fall below that because the economy is crashing around us. And they're doing that because people are dying from the coronavirus. I get that. But look, the fact of the matter is we have people dying. 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools. But we don't shut the country down for that. But yet we're doing it for this. And the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives are being destroyed.
What? We lose 360,000 people to swimming pool drownings? Somebody needs to tell the doctor, A, drowning is not contagious, and about 4,000 people die every year from drowning under any circumstances. So Dr. Phil's numbers are way off. Unless there are uncounted corpses floating around America in rivers and streams and swimming pools that nobody has claimed. Looks like somebody watched Sunset Boulevard one time too many. What is the deal with these people? What is the deal? It's all a trade-off. Well, you should die. We have to have people die. Interesting trade-off, right? How about barking that loud against the president who refuses to get the money to the people who freaking need it to prevent all of these people becoming victims of poverty? We do have money, you know. We spend $800 billion a year on just one thing. That's the military. We do have money. I don't know why the money has to always go to the $2 trillion in tax cuts. Claw it back and give it to Americans. Keep Americans functioning and whole and fed and clothed and warm and safe in the middle of a pandemic. Oh, no. We have to explore appetizing opportunities of death to open up schools. Stay in school, kids. It's the reason we let Grandpa die. What the hell? You remember when your grandpa used to tell you the story? I used to walk to school in a snowstorm, barefoot, up a hill, both ways. Now your kids are going to tell the story of, I went to school and my grandma died. You better stay in school. It's the reason why grandma died. What the? So John Prine didn't die in vain. No. John Prine died so we could all go to Olive Garden. Are these people Dauncey? I mean, what is wrong with them? 2 or 3% in terms of total mortality. What lesson does that send to the children? You pro-life, hypocrite. Told you, they love the fetus. They hate the child.
Fatality. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China. It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear. Our numbers are lower than just about anybody. Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all. People coming in from China, where this all started, it could have been stopped right where it came from, China. It came from China. It got out of control. If you think about Governor Cuomo, we're building him 4 hospitals. He's supposed to be buying his own ventilators. We're going to help.
People like Governor Inslee, he should be doing more. He shouldn't be relying on the federal government. Governor Inslee, that's the state of Washington.
Don't call the woman in Michigan. All she does is she has no idea what's going on, and all she does is say, oh, it's the federal government's fault, and we've taken such great care of Michigan. We inherited, this administration inherited a broken system. The original tests, the ones we inherited, Jim, as an example, they were broken. They were obsolete. And you remember we inherited a broken system. We inherited a broken system. WHO, that's the World Health Organization, they missed the call. World Health got it wrong. I mean, they got it very wrong. In many ways, they were wrong. I'm not happy with the World Health Organization. The reality is that the WHO failed to adequately obtain, vet, and share information in a timely and transparent fashion. It would have been so easy to be truthful. The coronavirus, you know that, right? Coronavirus. And this is their new hoax. And the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero.
Wow. You know how many people died last night? I had to read this over and over again because I could not. That's outdated already. The 31,000 number. Okay, that's an old number, and that was from yesterday. It's 34,180 are dead now. You know how many people died in a 24-hour period last night? I had to read this 10 times because it just wouldn't sink in as being a true number. But it's in the Wall Street Journal, and it's a true number. It's shocking, and it's horrible, and they're saying, oh, what's another 2 to 3% dead? Last night, in one 24-hour period, the 24 hours ending at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Thursday night, 24 hours, 4,591 people died from COVID-19. That is double. That is double the prior record. The prior record was 2,569 people on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, that number doubled to 4,591 people. And he's blaming. The man, he wants total control. And now he's saying, you call the shot. I call the shots was the way we began the week. And by the end of the week, he's saying to the governors, you call the shots. You do it. I don't want to do it. I don't see myself as a leader. I don't see myself. I'm weak. I'm tired. I'm lazy. I don't even know. I don't even understand it. And so Andrew Cuomo, he has a press conference every single day, and he has it in the morning. Donald Trump does it in prime time. And Cuomo has been so apolitical. He's not a progressive, liberal a governor anyway, but he's been apolitical. He's been sucking up when he knows he needs to, avoiding difficult conversations with the president when he has to, but in the background, he is making these phone calls to the president saying we need this and we need that, and we'll go out and Cuomo is okay, I'll go buy ventilators, I'll go to China, I'll buy ventilators, I'll source them, I'll pay for them, I'll buy them, and then FEMA swoops in and takes his ventilators, right? Same thing that happened with PPE, because Donald Trump was shipping PPE out to China, increased our exports of these items, gloves and ventilators and face masks, face shields, N95 masks, gloves, all these things. Our exports to China of these items went up 1,065% in February. In freaking February. And now we have to get them back, and the governors are being told, go get them back. The governors make a deal. They get them back. They overpay for them because there's a bidding war between the states. And then the shipment is sitting there, and the federal government, FEMA, comes in and commandeers their stuff and now makes them genuflect and beg and do, assume positions that aren't even in the Kama Sutra, which would require PPE, the stuff that Pence does when he stands with Donald Trump. That kind of stuff. I mean, knee pads need to be included in the PPE in that case. But Cuomo had it today. I just, I don't usually play anything from the Cuomo press conferences, but this one was noteworthy today. Donald Trump was tweeting, yes, Twitler. This is how, he's big and strong, right? On social media. This is his big, strong place. And while Cuomo was giving his press conference saying to people that, listen, we saw his plan is really no plan, but okay, it's up to us, we got this, we'll do what we can, we really do need him to stop passing the buck. Without the bucks, it's like, how is a state supposed to be able to afford to pay hospitals who are losing money, hand over fist, because COVID, is uncompensated care, and elective surgery has been canceled. People are afraid to go have their elective surgery. They don't want to be in a hospital with COVID patients. There's a lot surrounding what's going on in the hospitals, and the hospitals did not get their money. There was $100 billion that was allotted for hospitals, which is less than what we got okay? Actually, it was less than what millionaires got, not we, but less than what millionaires got. You know, millionaires got this carry forward tax loophole. There were limits on how much money you could carry forward to use as like a capital gains to use against your income in any given year to make your income seem like it was less. Well, they took the limit off, and so there are people out there that are getting windfalls. 43,000 millionaires got a windfall of the average payment was $1.7 million because the limit on carry forwards was taken off. Anyway, they got more money than the hospitals did, which is crazy. And then the hospitals didn't even get their money. They were allotted $100 billion, and they were given 30 of it, and not even by need. Not even, they looked at Medicare payments and gave all the hospitals, based on their Medicare payments, a certain portion of this $30 billion, which was supposed to be 100 but isn't. And the weird thing is, like New York hospitals, obviously they have a greater need than Wyoming. And what about the hospitals that treat Medicaid patients? Well, that didn't factor. I mean, he's turning this into the best connected get the most money. In chaos, you can steal. Go ahead and steal it. Take it. Get it. Have it. Did the same thing with the Paycheck Protection Program, right? I told you yesterday about Junior's Cheesecake, right? Junior's Cheesecake. They have 650 employees. Well, the PPE was supposed to be for companies with 500 or less. They tweaked it. They got themselves $5.5 million, even though it was 650 employees, by exploiting a loophole. I mean, come on.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, this is a piece of the New York governor's press conference today.
It looks like the president is also watching this press conference. He tweeted 13 minutes ago, quote, Governor Cuomo should spend more time doing and less time complaining. Get out there and get the job done. Stop talking. We built you thousands of hospital beds that you didn't need or use, gave large numbers of ventilators that you should have had and helped you with testing that you should be doing. It goes on a little bit more.
Oh my God.
Wondering if you could respond to that, and then also the question about the overwhelmed ICU.
Good. Let's respond to the president. First of all, if he's sitting home watching TV, maybe he should get up and go to work. Right? Second, let's keep emotion and politics out of this and personal ego, if we can, because this is about the people and it's about our job. And let's try to focus on that. I have said repeatedly that when we were fighting for the additional capacity for our hospital system, that the president moved very quickly, and I applauded him for it, and he brought the Army Corps of Engineers, and he brought them up to build the Javits Center capacity, 2,500 beds. He's wrong that it hasn't been used. About 800 people have gone through Javits. To dismiss 800 people is disrespectful. But we didn't use 2,500 beds because we didn't reach the capacity. When he says, well, we built it, we didn't need it, it sounds like suggestion is, well, it was a request by the state that wasn't valid. If he didn't really believe 2,500 beds was necessary, I don't believe the federal government would have helped build 2,500 beds. And the number came from a projection from him. See, he should read the reports he issues. Huh. The White House Coronavirus Task Force had projected in the millions of people. The CDC, which is the president, projected in the millions of people. So the projections were high. They were the president's projections. So for him to say to anyone, well, you relied on projections and the projections were wrong, they're your projections, Mr. President. So were we foolish for relying on your projections, Mr. President?
Okay, and there is another portion of that equation. New Yorkers rose to the occasion. New Yorkers are the most sacrificing people you will ever know. New Yorkers have been through so much in such a short period of time. When you think about 9/11, who was really affected in 9/11? New Yorkers, people in D.C., some people in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the people who died that day. The rest of the country felt the grief and mourned, but they went on with their lives. New Yorkers still to this minute suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Downtown does not look the same. The World Trade Center is missing from our skyline. New Yorkers died of mesothelioma. New Yorkers got all kinds of cancers, again, in their lungs from breathing the crap that was burning on the pile. When you talk about first responders, you're talking about New Yorkers who ran into the building. You're talking about hospitals that tended to the injured, the wounded, the dying, the dead, and the sick who remain sick for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years later. This president is disgusting, okay? There's something wrong with him. He had just had a press conference the other day where he said he was in total control. He would tell the governors what he wanted them to do. He would control all this because the president has total control. When you talk about the president, you're talking total control. The reporters sat there and they went, total control? Yes, total control. I will authorize whatever I want to authorize, and nothing will be done unless I author. And now he's telling the governors, you're on your own. And Cuomo has had it.
That's it. I'm done. What if I said that? That's what he's saying. I'm done. I don't want to help on testing. Testing is too hard. And then the only thing he's doing, let's be honest, well, it's up to the states to do reopen. By the way, it was always up to the states. What are you going to grant me what the Constitution gave me before you were born? It's called the 10th Amendment. I didn't need the President of the United States to tell me that I'm governor. And I didn't need the President of the United States to tell me the powers of a state. People did that. Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, they are the ones who gave me the power. And I don't need the President of the United States to read the Constitution for me. Maybe he should have read the Constitution before he said he had the power to open the states, where he did a very graceful 180.
Yeah.
And many people allowed him to do the graceful 180.
Yeah.
But, so he now says it's up to the governors, which he said repeatedly now, yesterday, version of yesterday. And now it's up to the governors to reopen. Okay, I'm going to reopen. I get it. And you don't want to help on testing, which is a national problem and replicates the same chaos that you created with medical supplies because FEMA wasn't ready. By the way, I needed a stockpile. Where was your stockpile?
Yeah.
10,000 ventilators for the nation? That was your stockpile? Where your projections, the federal projections said they would need double the hospital capacity of this nation.
Seriously, dude, let him have it. And I know, nobody wants to, argue with Trump because it's like arguing with a 3-year-old, right? But I want it. I want to go out. I want to go play. Well, you have to do your homework. Well, I don't want to. You do it. I mean, it's like arguing with a toddler. This president has the acumen and the experience of a 3-year-old. You know, I mean, here's a guy who shirked his duty through his whole life. He went to a military-themed reform school and thinks he was in the military, but when it was time to actually be in the military, he was not in the military, wouldn't go in the military. Last night on Twitter, there was this little hashtag. This is an aside. It said, me at 20. And you were supposed to show a picture of yourself when you were 20 years old. And I showed a picture of me when I was 20 years old. Anybody interested, go to @Randi Rhodes, and you'll see my picture. Where the hell was he? Mr. Bones Spurs. Where was he? He's always AWOL. This man he went to military-themed reform school. His parents sent him away because they couldn't take him. And he thinks now that he was actually in the military. I don't know what's wrong with him, but the governors are in a bad spot. They now have to figure out how to ramp up testing for millions of people in their very large states. Because if you open the state, which is what Governor Andrew Cuomo tried to explain to idiot boy Hannity yesterday, if you open the state, the caseloads are going to skyrocket again. The only reason why we wanted to flatten the curve was to keep the hospitals from overloading with sick people. And now they're at a plateau. They've lowered the curve, right? Because everyone's locked up. And they can't infect each other. But if you open without testing and you don't know who has it, the contagion will do what it does. It will infect more people, and we'll go right back to square one.
Look, the reduction in the curve, if you will, the reduction on the projections is not an act of God. It's an act of government, and it's an act of the citizens of this country.
Yes.
We have reduced the curve. In New York, we think we hit a plateau, which is a horrific plateau with much, much pain and death. But that was done, and the numbers are so much different than the initial projections because we acted responsibly and diligently. That's what is reducing the number. As soon as we stop doing what we're doing, if we get sloppy or undisciplined or we change track, you will see that number go up. You tell me the behavior of New Yorkers today, I'll tell you the hospitalization rate in 4 days.
Right.
So, yes, we have reduced the curve. And because of our actions. And that's why we have to be very, very careful now as we get impatient and we want to reopen and we want to get out of the homes and we need to get back to work. We do that too fast. We do that without respecting science and data. You will see us boomerang and you'll see those numbers go up again.
Exactly.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
For instance, if a governor issued a stay-at-home
When you
order,
say my authority, the president's authority, not mine, because it's not me. This is when somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
What?
The authority is total.
It's total. It's total.
Your authority
And the
is
governors
total.
know that.
So if a
The governors know that. Now you have a couple of bands of excuse me. You have a couple.
Could you rescind that order?
You have a couple of bands of Democrat governors, but they will agree to it. They will agree to it. But the authority of the President of the United States having to do with the subject we're talking about is total.
States that have closed, ordered schools closed. It's been states that have ordered businesses like restaurants.
That's because
and
I let
bars
that
closed.
happen. Because I would have preferred that. I let that happen. But if I wanted to, I could have closed it up. But I let that happen. And I like the way they've done it.
Compare that to big fun states and say, I order you to open your schools, I order you to force kids to be able to go?
Yes, Mr. President. Following up on that, there are two consortiums of states today, California, Oregon, Washington on the West Coast, northeastern states, totally representing about 100 million people who said they're going to cooperate and decide when to reopen.
Well, they can decide, but...
Does that undermine what you're trying
No,
to do?
not at all. Let me just tell you, very simple. I'm going to put it very simply. The President of the United States has the authority to do what the president has the authority to do, which is very powerful. The president of the United States calls the shots. If we weren't here for the states, you would have had a problem in this country like you've never seen before. We were here to back them up, and we've more than backed them up. We did a job that nobody ever thought was possible. It's a decision for the president of the United States. Now, with that being said, we're going to work with the states because it's very important. You have local governments. They're pinpointed.
What?
It's really, you talk about, like a microchip. They're pinpointed.
Microchip?
We have local government that hopefully will do a good job. And if they don't do a good job, I'd step in so fast. But no, they can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States. Go ahead, please.
So if some states refuse to reopen and you order them to, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says all powers that don't reside in the President or the Congress reside in the states. How do you overcome that?
Well, if some states refuse to open, I would like to see that person run for election.
What is wrong with him? And then yesterday, he did a complete 180. This is what Governor Cuomo was so frustrated. This is what real people who are really trying to protect and defend the people that they are, the executive for, governors in states, are so frustrated with. This is what he said yesterday.
Governors will be empowered to tailor an approach that meets the diverse circumstances of their own states. Every state is very different. They're all beautiful. We love them all, but they're very, very different.
They're not different.
If they need to remain closed, we will allow them to do that. And if they believe it is time to reopen, we will provide them the freedom and guidance to accomplish that task, and very, very quickly, depending on what they want to do.
Tests.
We are also encouraging states to work together to harmonize their regional efforts. We'll have numerous cases where states have worked and will be working very, very closely together. As we reopen, we know that there will be continued hardships and challenges ahead. Our goal will be to quickly identify and address any outbreaks and put them out rapidly.
They want tests. That's what they want. That's what they need. It's what your own sycophants are saying is necessary. Hannity said he wants Yankee Stadium open. He wants to go to a ball game. He's willing to wear a mask. Ooh, he's willing to wear a mask. But the people in the stadium, this is Hannity's world, who are ticket takers, who are going in to watch the game, who are selling beer, who are selling hot dogs, they all need to be tested in Hannity's world. Right?
I want to see Yankee Stadium open. I want Citi Field where the Mets play open. I want MetLife Stadium in New Jersey open for the Giants and Jets. Now, this is not my decision. But now you have to start with this one thing. People most at risk with underlying health issues or compromised immune systems, guys, you shouldn't go. Not this year. You're going to have to take a year off.
Oh.
Every player, every trainer, every coach, every ticket taker, every food and beverage worker, anybody working in these stadiums will have to have that Abbott 5-minute test. Have to. Anyone that wants to attend a game. Now, if I have the choice attending the game or not attending the game, I'm just speaking for myself. Consult your doctor. I'm not a doctor.
There is no Abbott 5-minute test because there's no technicians that know how to run the Abbott 5-minute test. And the Abbott 5-minute test only tests one person at a time. It's the little toaster, remember? And they had 18,000 of them that we never even saw deployed. Yeah, they do one test at a time. They talk high throughput. He's talking about testing 60,000, 80,000 people before they come into a stadium with an Abbott toaster test, which isn't available in those numbers. You know what? They make no sense. You know why they make no sense? Because they're full of nothing. They're full of no information. They're full of no verve, vigor, zest, and zeal. They don't care about you. I don't know what Sean Hannity could possibly do that's worth $40 million a year. What service does that man provide that could possibly, in this day and age, in this world, be worth $40 million a year? And that is his salary. That is what he gets paid. And he's a slumlord on top of it, thanks to Michael Cohen, who is getting out of jail. Yeah, Michael Cohen's getting out of jail because of COVID. Otisville, upstate New York, the only kosher prison in the New York vicinity, they have COVID cases. And so Michael Cohen Just as I said about the other prisoners, they did not get life in prison. They did not get the death penalty. And this is the death penalty. 4,591 people died last night. Last night. And idiot boy is talking about opening up Yankee Stadium and doing mass testing, and the president is like, no, the governors have to get the test. The governors are responsible for that. I mean, could somebody just speak with one voice? Could somebody just step up and be the leader of this thing? Because there is no leadership, and that is why we're in this predicament. That is why we are asked, this is why we ask each other to sacrifice, to protect each other, because that's what we got. We got each other. Elections have consequences. Yeah, you end up on a ventilator, apparently. Who knew? What do you got to lose? Apparently, I was right. Your whole life. Your life as you know it. Life itself. Just when he was talking to African Americans and he was saying, well, what do you got to lose? And I was saying, your life, your life. That turned out to be 100% certifiably true. Bingo, straight on, head up, word. Now, I will give you some good news, I think. There is there are a bunch of trials. The first medicines that have been identified as having the potential to, I won't say cure because I don't know that, but to reverse the effects of COVID-19. And it's a drug that I talked to you about before. It's an antiviral drug that they first, thought would help with SARS, with sudden acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. And unfortunately, the company, for those of us who watched Handmaid's Tale, the company's called Gilead. I mean, I would change the name is what I would do. Because Gilead just implies that you're going to make something that's going to make me infertile. As if I'm fertile. Yeah. And, who would want to, But anyway, it's Gilead Science, and they have a whole bunch of studies going on around the world. There are 2,400 participants from 152 clinical trial sites all over the world that are participating in severe COVID studies. And then there's a moderate COVID-19 study that includes 1,600 patients in 169 different centers all over the world. So these are huge clinical trials. The drug is called remdesivir. It's an antiviral. And so far, so good.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
But hydroxychloroquine. Try it, if you'd like.
Oh my God, that is so creepy. And I don't even want to come off like hydroxychloroquine. Try it, if you'd like. But there's a publication called Stat, and it's been picked up after Stat published it yesterday. That a Chicago hospital that's treating severe COVID-19 patients with the Gilead antiviral medicine remdesivir is a very closely watched clinical trial. They are seeing rapid recoveries in fever and respiratory symptoms with nearly all the patients. And they are looking at people who were in severe stages of COVID-19 who are being discharged in less than 1 week. And I think it's important that we all just, know that these clinical trials are happening, and some of them are going really, really well. It was one of the very first medications that people thought of when they thought about SARS or they thought about Ebola. Now, it didn't work well for Ebola. And SARS is a weird thing because SARS just came and went. It just disappeared. It seems like this coronavirus figured out, I swear to God, it's Mother Nature, right? The mothers of invention. Mother Nature. Frank Zappa fans will get that. But Mother Nature sort of figured out how to survive past SARS, how to mutate into something that would be, more at home in our bodies, something that could replicate itself quicker, better, find more tissue that it could, attach to and grow and replicate itself. Right now, this particular study, the University of Chicago, they recruited 125 people who had COVID-19 into the 2-phase clinical trials. There's 2 phase 3s, okay? Meaning phase 1, where do no harm, okay? You understand that? So first you have to make sure that whatever you're doing isn't hurting people. That's the problem with hydroxychloroquine. It was hurting people, and that's why Brazil stopped their study. Other people that were studying hydroxychloroquine, they said, it causes arrhythmias, which is an irregular heartbeat, short circuits, if you could think about it that way. And people were dying, and it wasn't a good thing. There were a lot of medications and a lot of pre-existing conditions that you couldn't even think about using hydroxychloroquine on, like diabetes and heart failure patients and a whole host of others. So this particular drug has already been looked at for do no harm, and it actually back in the SARS and Ebola days did no harm. So they went to phase 2. Now they're in phase 3 of the clinical trials, and it looks like of the people that they recruited, the 125 at the University of Chicago Medical Center, 113 of those 125 had severe disease. All of them were treated with daily infusions. This is an infused drug. This is, you know how you have a bag and it drips like that. It's that. It's not a pill. It's an infusion. And they said the best news is that most of our patients have already been discharged, which is great. They did lose 2 patients. They said we only had 2 patients perish. Kathleen Mullane, the University of Chicago infectious disease specialist overseeing the remdesivir study for the hospital, said she made her comments during a video discussion with other University of Chicago faculty members, and the discussion was recorded, and this stat, which seems to me to be a blog. I could be wrong, but that's how I receive it. I get it online and I think it's a blog, but I could be wrong. But they got a copy of that video, and it shows you a little snapshot of the effectiveness of this remdesivir. And because it's been used before and didn't do well with Ebola, and it didn't, SARS came and went, like I said, so they stopped clinical trials of antivirals to cure SARS. This is what Dr. Fauci had to explain to Laura Ingraham last night on her idiotic show. Eva Braun over there. Just open it. People want to die. We just do. We're a death cult. We're willing to die. Right? And he was trying to explain to her, that this is not, because she's saying, look, when there was AIDS out there, people went to work. When there was SARS out there, people went to work. And Dr. Fauci had to explain to her, this isn't AIDS. This is so much more contagious. It's in the air. People just talk to you and you get it, okay? You don't have to, do anything. It just, it's not. And it has absolutely nothing to do with SARS, because SARS just disappeared.
Fauci, on the question of a vaccine, we don't have a vaccine for SARS. I mean, they got close in mice. We don't have a vaccine for HIV. And life did go on, right? So the idea that we're definitely going to have a vaccine, we didn't really approach much else in the same way as we're pegging going back to normal with a vaccine. Did we?
Well, no, but Laura, this is different. HIV/AIDS is entirely different. We don't have a vaccine for HIV/AIDS, but we have spectacularly effective treatment. Yeah. People who invariably would have died years ago right now are leading essentially normal lives. SARS is a different story. SARS disappeared. We developed a vaccine. We were in the process of going through the various phases. We showed it was safe. We showed it induced a good response, and then SARS disappeared, and we didn't need to develop a vaccine for SARS. So I think it's a little bit misleading maybe to compare what we're going through now with HIV or SARS.
Yeah, Laura, wake the hell up, okay? And before you sit there and opine about SARS and HIV, please know what's been done so far and why this is totally different. The infection rate on this. Here is your margin for error. If you can keep the infection rate from person to person below 0.9. Now, everybody says the same thing. Where's the 0.9 of a person? It's just how numbers are, right? So just imagine if you could keep the infection rate of COVID-19 from 1 to 1, maybe it's manageable for hospitals. See what I mean? But if it goes just slightly above 1 to 1, if it even goes to 1.2, now you've got an inundation of the hospitals. That's your tiny little margin of error with this. And that's why we're locked down. Okay? She doesn't understand anything that she's talking about. Like nothing. Dartmouth really needs to recall her degree and give it to me. Anyway, the results of the third phase of this clinical trial, the first 400 patients in this study would be locked by yesterday, they said, meaning that the results could come any day for remdesivir, an antiviral that was used on Ebola, not really effectively, but on SARS, which just disappeared, and they stopped the research. Could be effective in moderate and severe COVID-19 patients. That would be everything.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
But we don't know. This could disappear. I mean, SARS did pretty much disappear. This could as well, correct?
Yeah. You know, anything could, Laura, but I have to tell you, the degree of efficiency of transmissibility of this is really unprecedented in anything that I've seen. It's an extraordinarily efficient virus in transmitting from one person to another. Those kind of viruses don't just disappear.
She's such a douche. She is. She chooses to be, in the dark about these facts so that she can preach to her audience that they should take a chance and die and just go to work. As if anybody is going to show up at a restaurant, as if anybody's going to show up at a Yankee game, as if anybody is going to show up at a concert. As really, anybody's going to go to a gym where there's sweat and, people breathing heavy and, working out. I mean, what is wrong with them? What do they think? Oh, if all of a sudden Trump says, come out, whatever you are, that everybody is just going to show up because they have confidence in the dear leader? I mean, please, test people. Let them know that it's safe. Isolate those who are sick and treat them. If this is if remdesivir, if this is a real antiviral that works on this virus, then we can at least treat people who do get sick. It changes almost everything, but not the need for testing. Not the need for testing. Because you can't have people being infected at the rate that this virus infects others and the hospitals not become overwhelmed. Because right now, if you have 5,000 people dying, that's 5,000 open beds, but that doesn't solve your problem, does it? No, because 5,000 more and 10,000 more and 20,000 more will come right behind them if you don't identify the carriers, the spreaders. But it is an amazing thing to be able to tell you that is on the horizon, yes or no. We'll have an answer shortly on that particular drug, which is being tried in an enormous amount of places, in trials. And then last bit of good news, because it's Friday, and I just found out that Modelo is not considered essential in Mexico. Who the hell is Modelo? They're the manufacturers of Corona beer. Nothing to do with the virus. happens to be my beer because I do low carbs, and Corona Premier has 2 carbs, and it's damn good. Not a fan of the Ultra, okay? Don't even want to say, right? But just not a fan. Tastes like air in a sponge. I don't know what that is. But Corona Premier works for me. And Modelo just said that they're not considered essential in Mexico, and so they promised me that they have enough to at least get me through this weekend, which would be good. Because every day is the same for me too, you know. Except Friday, there's a hot tub and a beer on the other end. So that was the bad news. The good news is that Oxford University, according to a British scientist at Oxford, a professor heading a team of scientists, that they believe that they are ready to start human trials of a vaccine in 2 weeks. Quote, I think there's a high chance that it will work based on the other things that we have done with this type of vaccine. It's not just a hunch, and as every week goes by, we have more data to look at. I would go for 80%. That's my personal view. It's just about possible to have a vaccine in September, she said. If everything goes perfectly, no one can promise it's going to work, but she said she feels an 80% chance of it working is what she's looking at. The government in the UK, unlike our government, unlike Donald Trump, has indicated that it would be willing to fund the manufacture of millions of doses of any vaccine that appeared to work. So that means that if the vaccine goes into its, human trials, in 2 weeks, that means that, and if it could be ready by September, that means it could be ready to roll out to the public as soon as it is proven that it works. So they're starting those trials too. So those are the good things to report about this. Bob in Phoenix.
Hey, Randy, thank you for all of your information today.
You're welcome.
Remdesivir has been used in cases of vasculitis and other things, so it's an amazing drug.
Remdesivir. Yeah, right. That's the thing, is that we know it doesn't hurt people, and that's the big hurdle, right? Because hydroxychloroquine did not pass that test.
But that's not why I'm calling today, Randy. I'm calling about the treatment of the first responders and the medical workers and the nurses. We're all sequestered at home so that we can stall for all of these drugs and all of these treatments to take place, to work, so that they have enough time to catch up.
That's right.
But in the meantime, our dear leader is trying to get us to go back to work before the treatment is available. And I think that the first responders and the nurses and the food chain workers all have to protest this. I think they have to threaten or even a work slowdown to show that they won't put up with this. They have to go and risk their life every day, go in hospitals and go on production lines for food service, and they have to do it every single day without the promise of testing, contact tracing, all the other stuff. I can't even think of it on the phone, but everything that needs to be done before we're all ready to go back.
I know. And Americans have lost that can-do, we sacrifice for the greater good, attitude that we used to have. This is why people miss, what they imagine America was back then, right? They say, make America great again. Well, America was made great by the greatest generation. So you had 500,000 guys going off to war, and you had the women going to the factories. You had people doing without in the United States to support the war effort, buying bonds, not wearing silk stockings, giving up their hamburger. My grandmother knew how to turn, a quarter of a pound of chopped meat into a family dinner for 7 people. Do you know what I mean? This is not these trolls are not willing to do that. They're not willing to sacrifice anything.
And you want to put them in the back of the line for health care when they need it.
No, I really don't. I really don't want to do that.
I know. I don't really agree with that, but I'm just saying.
I know.
That
I know what you're saying. I get it. It makes you angry.
It makes me incredibly angry because we could do better. And these were Trump.
But you have to. That's it.
Rallies.
But you have to understand. You have to understand that Trump is their leader, and Trump is tweeting today that they should liberate Virginia, liberate Minnesota. He is encouraging the trolls to go out and be spreaders. He's literally encouraging them to do these stupid protests without masks, without other people's safety in mind, not to make any sacrifices whatsoever. A real leader would promise people financial relief, would ask them to sacrifice boredom and staying at home for the greater good. But he's not a leader. He's a 3-year-old. He's a toddler.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This report basically was a PowerPoint presentation of a pile of slides stuck in between paper. And the slides told you basically one thing that came through loud and clear. The federal government is not doing this.
Right.
You personally are responsible. You employers are responsible. You states are responsible. Hey, you want to know how many people to test, when to test them, what kind of test, antibody or PCR, what should be the nature of the testing? Should you come up with strategic testing where you're targeting key population groups as indicators, or should you just randomly test just everybody in a Walmart parking lot, as was the original scheme?
Yeah.
There's nothing in there that answers any of those questions.
Yeah, and that's Lori Garrett. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning investigative journalist, okay? And she's explaining what that ridiculous thing, that dog and pony show that he does every night, what that was about yesterday, where he did this complete 180. I have total control. I'm in total. I am the ultimate. I alone can fix it. To, hey, governors, you're on your own. Hey, America, you're on your own. You wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Go out, don't go out. Open the beaches, close the beaches. Go to work, don't go to work. Hey, 2 to 3% of the kids will die if they go back to school. You know what? So small price to pay. I mean, just a ridiculous, leaderless mess of a country. That's what this is. And the price to pay is ginormous. 4,591 people died in 24 hours ending last night at 8 p.m. 24 hours. Because of him. He's doing this. We are leaderless. Completely a mess. And what we really need is testing, so we can enter into the containment phase that we skipped over, to just lock ourselves away and mitigate the fallout. That's where we are. We're in mitigation phase. We just skipped the whole containment thing. And, they're talking about all these people that they need to hire now to do contact tracing. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to do can I just point out that when Facebook, when this psychologist ran a little quiz, like which housewife would you be if you were on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, or which a Sex and the City character is most like you? Are you a Charlotte? Are you a Carrie? Which one are you? He was able to suck up not just your information, but all your friends' information, and then their friends' information, and their and scaled it up like overnight. And we can't have anonymous, like you don't have to put your name on it, like your Facebook page has your name on it. Because obviously people's medical history is private. That's why we have HIPAA, which some people apply it like STIPA, which is stupid HIPAA, where you get a test at a hospital and, you sign the paper to release what happened to you in the hospital to your primary care, but your primary care won't release it to your cardiologist because it's STIPA, stupid HIPAA, right? People don't even understand this law, and it causes a lot of problems. Trust me, when you're doing health care for your mom, you'll know what I'm talking about. However, I digress. So why couldn't we anonymously be a number that had a COVID-19 test come out positive? And then you just put that in there, and then it finds my friends and their friends and so on and so on. No, all of a sudden, now we need hundreds of thousands of people to do contact tracing. We could train them up really quick. It's not that hard. What? We're leaderless. Tony in New Mexico.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Tony.
I just wanted to call you and tell you I'm all for getting this economy going again, because if we have an economic collapse, we're going to have a societal collapse, and the number of dead are going to far exceed what this virus is going to do.
Only if the
People
rich
are,
go broke, they jump out of windows. We just persevere.
It has nothing to do, Randy. It has nothing to do with rich and poor. You've got poor people lined up in lines to get food for miles.
So get the money out the door.
When those people can't get food,
get the money out the door. Get the money out the door. Why is it that California yesterday? Wait a second. Just back up a second. California yesterday managed to get people their unemployment checks and 2 payments of $600 yesterday. They were able to do it, and Florida, you'll sit on hold and it'll disconnect you 991 times. It's no leadership. If you could put money in people's pockets right now, they wouldn't be having to, in North Texas and in New Mexico and in Phoenix and they wouldn't be sitting in lines for miles to get boxes of food.
There's nobody sitting in lines here in New Mexico for boxes of food. We've got a very low rate. You said earlier that you basically said all the states are the same. They're not.
The
difference between New York and New Mexico
there's no
is
difference.
Like
Everybody is human, and everybody is a host for this virus. It's just that you're behind. Okay, you're behind.
Livelihoods.
Yes, you'll see.
Our lives, Randy.
I understand. So get the money out the door. Get their money out the door and in their hands. Get their money to them.
Things don't happen at a magic
They're supposed
whim.
to happen by computer and direct deposit, and it's a mess. It's a mess.
Randy, I'm a retired design engineer.
That's what my
with
dad
a master's degree in machine tool technology.
That's what my dad
I understand
did.
what it takes to manufacture things.
Okay.
And
I'm not talking about manufacturing anything. I'm talking about depositing checks.
You've been talking about testing. You can't. These tests have to be manufactured.
These tests.
There's a time limit here.
No. These tests exist. What's not in existence?
Yeah, the tests exist, but
yes,
you got to
they
manufacture
exist.
them.
No, they exist. They are there. The problem is that the Abbott test...
And they exist, and they exist by the hundreds of millions.
Let me tell you something. The Abbott test is not a high-throughput test. It's a one-at-a-time test, okay? And that's one of the problems with it. The other test, the saliva test, is just now being rolled out in New Jersey. The problem with the test is not that the test doesn't exist. The problem with the test is reagents have to be imported from China. And we're running out of freaking Q-tips. That's the problem.
The point.
And the pipettes. Everything has to be imported because America makes nothing. So in the meantime, get the money out to the people. This is a false choice that you have to risk your life or we're going to have some economic calamity. There's plenty of money. It's going to the wrong people. It's going to the wrong place. Isn't it something that the Paycheck Protection Program ran out of money in 3 days, and that 9% of those awards were 43,000 people got more than $1 million. Isn't that something? People with more than 500 employees qualified through a loophole that said, well, so you have 650 employees, you still qualify as a small business because they don't all work under the same roof. You're a franchise, right? So you have 100 people here and you got 100 people in the bakery. Please give me a break. This is so corrupt, I can't even tell you. And people would not have to sweat it out the way that they're sweating it out if the money was going to the people. That's just a fact. And therein lies the dilemma and the false choice. Well, either we have to go out and risk our lives or we're going to have a complete meltdown of our economy. Bull crap. Does not have to happen that way. That man is telling you a lie. A freaking lie. For 4 months we've needed tests.
I'd say we should not send you back to work till it's safe to send you back to work. This is a false choice. The way you revive the economy is you defeat the disease. You defeat the disease. And we have to get a number of new cases down where they are significantly down from where they are now. Social distancing is going to have to continue. We have to implement this Defense Production Act as a supply community. Get them out there gathering all this data. We have to have widespread testing available, Willie. We've known that for the last 4 months.
And he's done nothing. Nothing. I want you to look at the Midwest and the rate of this virus. It's increasing now in the Midwest, 60% in some states, 50% in other states. You're just behind. That's all. You're just behind. People who have known early and locked themselves up, they're bringing down the rate of infection in their communities. People who are out there walking around without any idea of what's coming are going to see what's coming. I don't want you to have to see what's coming. It can be prevented. Prevention. Get the money out the door. Get the testing up and running. 4 months we've known this. Save me some Corona beer.
Clear.